How could a man walk free from a double murder trial and commit another killing just 3 days later? What kind of person celebrates their acquittal by allegedly taking the life of a pregnant woman? These aren't hypothetical questions. This is exactly what prosecutors claim happened on January 30th, 2023. Alana Sims, 22, a devoted single mother, was found lying lifeless on a quiet street in New Tampa, Florida. Her body lay near her parked Ford EcoSport SUV. Inside the vehicle, completely unaware, her 23-month-old son was fast asleep in his car seat. But that wasn't the most chilling part. Sims was 5 months pregnant. She was shot multiple times, left to die in a neighborhood she didn't live in a spot where she believed she was meeting someone she trusted. It was 25-year-old Billy Adams, a rapper known by the stage name Ace and H. What's shocking is that Billy Adams had just been acquitted of a double murder 3 days earlier. He had claimed self-defense in a 2020 shooting and was found not guilty. Now, he was back under arrest, this time for allegedly murdering a pregnant woman. What really happened on that night in January 2023? Was this a cold-blooded execution, disguised as a friendly meetup? What did the investigators uncover that led to his arrest? In this video, we break down the entire timeline. Who Alana Sims was, her connection to Billy Adams, what really happened the night she was killed, and how new laws in Florida may change how justice is served in this case. Stay with us as we uncover the disturbing details behind this tragic case. If you enjoy real crime stories that uncover the truth, don't forget to subscribe. Your support helps us share real cases, spread awareness, and give a voice to those who can't speak for themselves. Before we begin, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from, and what are your thoughts as the story unfolds? Welcome to True Crime Tales, where we reveal the crimes that shock communities and the secrets hidden behind closed doors. These are real people, real events, real consequences. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Now, let's begin. Alana Sims was a 22-year-old woman residing in Tampa, Florida, at the time of her death. She was born and raised in the United States and spent most of her adult life in Hillsborough County. There is limited public information about her early years, education, or employment history, but law enforcement records and media reports confirm that she was not involved in any illegal activities and maintained a clean background. She lived a relatively low-profile life. Sims was not known to law enforcement prior to the incident, and there is no documented history of her being involved in civil or criminal proceedings, either as a victim or suspect. At the time of her death, Sims was not married. She was a single mother raising her child alone. There is no indication that she had any legally binding relationship or active co-parenting agreement with any partner. Her romantic history has not been publicly detailed, but she was reported to be in communication with Billy Adams, the man later accused of her murder. He was also believed to be the father of her unborn child. According to information released during the investigation, Sims may have believed she was in a relationship with Adams. However, based on Adams' statements and digital evidence, there were discrepancies in how each party viewed the nature of their connection. Sims reportedly saw Adams as a committed partner, while he did not reciprocate that view. Sims had one son, who was 23 months old at the time of her death. He was born in 2021. She had full custody of the child and was a primary caregiver. There is no indication that the father of this child was active in the child's life. Sims was known to prioritize her son's well-being and maintain a stable household for him. At the time of the incident, Sims was also 5 months pregnant with her second child. The identity of the unborn child's father was later confirmed to be Billy Adams. She had publicly shared news of the pregnancy within her inner circle. Adams was reportedly aware of the pregnancy and expressed negative feelings about it, based on law enforcement interviews and recorded statements. Alana Sims lived a quiet and consistent life. Neighbors, friends, and family described her as a private individual who spent most of her time at home. Her daily routine centered around caring for her young son. She did not have an extensive public presence and was not active in any controversial or high-risk behavior. She was often seen pushing a stroller, visiting local stores, or spending time at home. Reports indicate she had a small circle of support made up of close relatives and a few trusted friends. She was known to be reliable, punctual, and family-oriented. Those who knew her personally stated that she was focused on building a future for her children and had begun preparing for the birth of her second child. There is no indication that Sims used drugs, abused alcohol, or engaged in illegal activity. Toxicology reports following her death showed no substances in her system aside from those associated with pregnancy. Sims had no criminal history. She had never been arrested, charged, or questioned in connection with any criminal investigation. Background checks showed no previous incidents involving law enforcement, child protective services, or domestic disputes. She was not on probation or parole and had never been under police surveillance. Her neighbors did not report any disturbances or irregularities linked to her residence. Local law enforcement had not been called to her address for any reason before her death. She was viewed as a peaceful and compliant member of the community. On January 27, 2023, Billy Adams, a 25-year-old rapper known by the stage name Ace and Age, was acquitted of a double homicide charge stemming from a 2020 shooting incident in a Tampa recording studio. The victims in that case were two men, shot to death during what Adams claimed was an act of self-defense. A jury accepted this defense, and Adams was released shortly after the verdict. Within days of his release, Adams reestablished communication with 22-year-old Alana Sims. According to investigators, Sims was 5 months pregnant at the time, and the child she was carrying was believed to be fathered by Adams. Sims also had a 23-month-old son from a previous relationship. Based on phone records and statements obtained during the investigation, Adams allegedly invited Sims to attend a gathering or party in celebration of his acquittal. Authorities now allege that the party invitation was a pretext. Sims reportedly believed she was meeting Adams for a social event. She left home the evening of January 30th, 2023, with her toddler in tow, expecting a routine interaction. She was unaware of the fatal outcome that awaited her. At approximately 10 p.m. on January 30th, 2023, residents in the New Tampa area reported hearing gunshots in a residential neighborhood. Shortly thereafter, someone noticed an unresponsive woman lying on the ground near a parked SUV on East 149th Avenue, in a quiet suburban section near the Easton Park subdivision. When law enforcement arrived at the scene, they discovered the lifeless body of Alana Sims. She had been shot multiple times. Her body was found outside the vehicle, suggesting she had exited the car shortly before the shooting occurred. There were no immediate witnesses to the killing, and no video surveillance was found directly capturing the incident. Sims' toddler was found inside the SUV, still buckled in his car seat. The child was unharmed, asleep, and appeared to have remained in the vehicle during the shooting. Authorities determined that the child had been left in the vehicle for an unknown period of time after murder, further underscoring the cold and calculated nature of the act. The firearm used in the shooting was not recovered at the scene. Shell casings were found near the body, consistent with multiple gunshot wounds. There was no indication of robbery or physical struggle inside the vehicle. The body of Alana Sims was officially reported to law enforcement by residents around 10:15 p.m. Police officers from the Tampa Police Department responded quickly to the scene. They located Sims' body outside the SUV and confirmed she had no vital signs. Upon searching the vehicle, officers located her toddler son unharmed in the backseat. He was immediately removed from the vehicle and placed into protective custody before being transferred to family members later that night. The discovery of a living child in the vehicle complicated the investigation and shifted law enforcement's focus toward individuals close to Sims. Crime scene technicians documented the area thoroughly. Photographs were taken, and evidence markers were placed around shell casings and blood patterns. The SUV was impounded for forensic analysis, including fingerprint testing and DNA swabs from interior surfaces. Detectives reviewed Sims' recent communications and phone logs. Billy Adams' number appeared prominently in her call history. Investigators subpoenaed cell phone tower records, revealing that Adams' phone was in the vicinity of the crime scene at the time of the shooting. As part of the initial inquiry, Adams was interviewed by detectives. He initially denied involvement, stating he had not seen Sims recently. However, Inconsistencies in his statements and forensic data later led authorities to obtain a warrant for his arrest. Witnesses also reported seeing a vehicle matching Adams' description fleeing the area around the time of the shooting. Surveillance footage from nearby residences partially supported the timeline, although no video directly captured the shooting. On February 8, 2023, approximately 9 days after the murder, Adams was arrested and charged with first-degree murder and the killing of an unborn child. He was booked into Hillsborough County Jail, and his bond was denied. Investigators concluded that Adams orchestrated the meeting under false pretenses and executed the victim to avoid the responsibilities associated with her pregnancy. The child in the car served as an unintended witness and was spared physical harm, though the long-term psychological impact remains unknown. Adams first entered the legal spotlight for his involvement in a 2020 double homicide. He was accused of fatally shooting two men, Danielle Midlow Samuel and Elijah Lil Leisure Robertson, inside a recording studio in Lutz, Florida. The case involved claims of self-defense, and Adams argued that the shooting was necessary to protect himself during an attempted robbery. Prosecutors contested that version, presenting him as the aggressor. In January 2023, after nearly 3 years of court proceedings, Adams was acquitted of the double murder. The jury returned a not guilty verdict based on reasonable doubt. Within days of his release, he publicly expressed relief and hinted at plans to focus on music and leave the past behind. He shared celebratory content online and gave the impression of turning over a new leaf. However, law enforcement later alleged that Adams committed a separate murder just days after his acquittal, this time targeting a 22-year-old woman, Alana Sims, who was 5 months pregnant with his child. Police investigations revealed that Adams had a personal relationship with Alana Sims. Though the exact nature of the relationship remains under review, evidence suggests that Sims believed Adams to be the father of her unborn child. According to reports, Adams and Sims had been in contact prior to her death, and she accepted an invitation to meet him on the night of January 30th, 2023. Sims believed she was attending a party celebrating his legal victory. Authorities claimed that Adams had no intention of celebrating. Instead, he allegedly lured Sims to a quiet residential area in New Tampa under false pretenses. Surveillance footage, digital forensics, and witness interviews later led police to arrest him for her murder. The suggested motive presented by the Tampa Police Department is direct. Adams reportedly did not want Sims' unborn child and sought to eliminate any ongoing ties to her. Prosecutors argue that Adams viewed the pregnancy as a liability, potentially threatening his image and freedom. Law enforcement has stated that Sims' death was premeditated and targeted, with Adams reportedly acting alone. Phone data and digital evidence indicated planning, and ballistic analysis matched shell casings from the crime scene to a firearm associated with Adams. According to the police report, Adams drove Sims to the location where the killing occurred. Sims exited the vehicle under the assumption that she was attending a party. Her 23-month-old son remained in the backseat of her car, asleep and unharmed. At some point shortly after arriving, Adams allegedly fired multiple shots at Sims, fatally wounding her and leaving her body beside her parked vehicle. After the shooting, Adams fled the scene. For several days, he was not considered a suspect. However, inconsistencies in his alibi, coupled with digital tracking data and ballistic matches, led to a formal arrest. He was taken into custody on February 8, 2023. Prior to his most recent arrest, Adams portrayed himself as a wrongfully accused man who had been given a second chance at life. In the immediate aftermath of his acquittal, he shared social media posts suggesting a desire to move forward, refocus on music, and put his legal issues behind him. He used his stage name, Ace and H, to build a local following, although he did not have any mainstream commercial success. His public persona was curated to show resilience, reformation, and street credibility following his legal troubles. This image was quickly shattered by the new charges. The alleged killing of a pregnant woman days after a murder acquittal has drawn national attention and sparked outrage. Law enforcement and the public now see a pattern of violence and deception behind his former image. Both the 2020 double homicide and the 2023 killing of Sims involve the use of firearms. Adams has a documented history of carrying and using guns, often linked to his claim of self-defense. In both incidents, he was alleged to have pulled the trigger multiple times, indicating a willingness to use deadly force. Investigators have highlighted the similarities between the two incidents, noting his access to firearms, comfort in high-risk confrontations, and calculated behavior leading up to both shootings. As of early 2025, Billy Adams remains in custody awaiting trial. He is charged with first-degree murder and the killing of an unborn child. Florida's newly adopted law allowing the death penalty for cases involving the murder of pregnant women is expected to play a central role in this trial. If convicted, he could face execution. Investigators reviewed footage from nearby surveillance cameras and obtained phone data from both Sims and Adams. GPS location tracking, call logs, and text message exchanges revealed that Adams had invited Sims out on the night of the incident under the pretense of celebrating his acquittal in an unrelated double homicide case. She left her home that evening, unaware she was being lured to her death. Data showed that Adams' phone was in the same area as Sims at the time of the murder. Additional evidence included forensic analysis of bullet shell casings and other material found at the crime scene. Based on this evidence, Tampa police obtained an arrest warrant and apprehended Adams without incident. Upon his arrest, he was taken into custody at the Orient Road Jail in Hillsborough County, Florida. Billy Adams was formally charged with multiple serious offenses. The charges include first-degree murder. Adams was accused of intentionally and unlawfully causing the death of Alana Sims with premeditation. Under Florida law, first-degree murder is a capital offense, eligible for life imprisonment or the death penalty. Killing of an unborn child by injury to the mother. At the time of her death, Sims was approximately 5 months pregnant. Florida statutes allow for separate charges when a pregnant woman is attacked and the unborn child dies as a result. In this case, Adams was additionally charged with causing the death of Sims' unborn child through intentional acts of violence directed at the mother. These charges were approved by the state attorney's office and submitted to the court within 48 hours of his arrest. During his first formal police interview, Billy Adams denied any involvement in the murder. He claimed that he had not left his residence on the night Sims was killed. This alibi was quickly discredited through digital evidence, including cell phone location data and security footage, which clearly placed him at the crime scene. Police confronted Adams with this evidence during interrogation, highlighting the inconsistency in his timeline. Adams then changed his story, leading to a second conflicting account of events. In a revised version of events, Adams told investigators that he had indeed met with Alana Sims on the night of the murder. However, he claimed the situation escalated when Sims allegedly produced a firearm and threatened him. He stated that he acted in self-defense and shot her to protect himself. This second account contradicted several critical pieces of physical evidence. No weapon found. The crime scene was extensively searched by forensics teams. No firearm or weapon of any kind was recovered from Sims' vehicle, the surrounding area, or her person. The toddler, found unharmed in the backseat, also showed no signs of distress or exposure to any altercation inside the vehicle. Lack of defensive wounds. According to the autopsy report, Sims sustained gunshot wounds with no signs of struggle or physical resistance that would be expected in a close combat self-defense scenario. Angle of entry. Ballistics analysis indicated that the shots were fired from a position of advantage, with no signs of return fire or defensive posture from Sims. This further undermined Adams' claim of self-defense. After being presented with contradictory evidence, Adams made a partial confession. He admitted to discarding the firearm used in the shooting after the incident. He claimed to have thrown the weapon into a body of water in an undisclosed location to avoid detection. Despite follow-up searches, the firearm has not been recovered to date. Law enforcement has continued to treat the weapon as missing, and forensic searches of potential dump sites have yielded no results. This confession to destroying potential evidence has resulted in additional scrutiny. Although not charged separately for obstruction or tamper with evidence at the time of reporting, this action is expected to be referenced heavily during trial proceedings. In December 2023, the case involving Billy Adams entered a new phase following significant changes in Florida's death penalty law. Previously, Florida law required unanimous jury decision, 12 out of 12 votes, to impose a death sentence in capital cases. Under the revised legislation, passed earlier that year and enacted by Governor Ron DeSantis, the law was changed to allow a death sentence with just an 8-4 jury vote. Even if 4 jurors oppose the death penalty, a convicted individual can still be sentenced to death, provided 8 jurors are in favor. The new rule was designed to fast-track capital punishment cases and limit the number of death penalty-eligible defendants who avoid the sentence due to hung juries or split votes. Billy Adams, charged with the premeditated murder of Alana Sims, is now one of the early test cases for this newly applied legislation. The prosecution moved quickly to seek the death penalty, citing the calculated nature of the crime, the fact that Sims was 5 months pregnant, and the presence of her toddler in the vehicle at the time of the shooting. Adams' defense team challenged the prosecution's right to invoke the updated statute. Their argument centered on one key legal principle: retroactivity. They claimed the murder occurred in January 2023, before the law changed. According to them, using a legal standard that was not in effect at the time of the crime violates constitutional protections against ex post facto application of criminal penalties. Despite these arguments, the presiding judge ruled that the new law could be applied in this case. The court's reasoning was that while the act occurred before the law was changed, the penalty phase of the trial is a separate legal procedure. Since sentencing would occur after the law's enactment, the court ruled it was permissible under state law. This decision set a precedent for how future capital cases may be handled in Florida moving forward. Legal analysts noted the ruling could prompt appeals to higher courts, including potential challenges to Florida Supreme Court or even federal courts on constitutional grounds. But as of early 2024, the case is proceeding with the death penalty as a possible outcome, based on the 8-4 jury rule. The application of the new death penalty law in the Billy Adams case has sparked widespread public debate. The reactions have been mixed, with some segments of the population in strong support and others expressing concern over its implications. Supporters of the law argue that it helps ensure swift justice in cases where the evidence is overwhelming and the crime is particularly brutal. They believe that requiring a unanimous jury vote allows a single juror to block punishment that is otherwise supported by the majority. In their view, this change is necessary to restore deterrence and confidence in Florida's justice system. Opponents, however, warn that reducing the threshold for a death sentence increases the risk of wrongful executions, especially in cases where doubt may still exist. They argue that such a significant penalty should only be administered when there is unanimous agreement. Concerns about racial bias, prosecutorial overreach, and potential misuse of the law have also been raised in public forums. In the specific case of Alana Sims, the community has been vocal in its shock over the brutality of the crime. Sims was killed while pregnant, with her toddler left in the backseat of her car during the shooting. For many, the circumstances of the crime demanded the harshest possible penalty. Some residents expressed disbelief that Adams had been acquitted in a double murder case just 3 days before the alleged killing of Sims. This detail intensified scrutiny of Florida's criminal justice system. Public outcry grew over perceived loopholes that may have allowed a repeat offender to walk free. Questions began surfacing across social media, news panels, and legal discussions. How could someone acquitted of one murder so easily commit another? Should individuals found not guilty of serious violent crimes still be monitored afterward? Critics of the system argue that Adams' case reflects broader failures, pointing to weak oversight, poor post-trial monitoring, and limited preventive action for individuals previously accused of violent crimes. Others call for legislative reform to improve background checks, post-acquittal surveillance, and more structured risk assessment protocols. As the legal proceedings continue, the case remains a flashpoint for ongoing debate around justice, punishment, and legislative change in Florida. Should someone acquitted of murder still be monitored afterward? Did the justice system fail Alana Sims? On February 12, 2023, a funeral was held in Tampa, Florida, for 22-year-old Alana Devone Sims. The service was attended by family, friends, neighbors, and members of the community who had followed the case since her death 2 weeks earlier. The funeral marked the official closure of her life, but not of the investigation or legal proceedings tied to her murder. Family members described Sims as a young woman who was loving and full of life. She had dedicated herself to raising her 23-month-old son and was preparing for the arrival of her second child. Her death meant not only the loss of one life, but also the unborn child she was carrying at the time. Those close to her now refer to the tragic outcome as the death of two family members. Her son, who was found asleep and unharmed in the backseat of the car where she was murdered, now lives without his mother and unborn sibling. Relatives have since taken custody of the child and are raising him in the absence of both parents. His life going forward is permanently shaped by the consequences of the events that occurred on January 30th, 2023. Following the funeral, several community events were held in Alana's memory. Candlelight vigils took place in local parks and near the crime scene. These gatherings were organized not only to honor her life, but to raise awareness of violence against women and the risks women face in relationships that may appear safe on the surface. Attendees at these vigils included victims' advocates, community leaders, and concerned residents. While these events generated local media coverage and sympathy, they also highlighted broader concerns about public safety, accountability, and the justice system. Her death became a focal point in discussions around how repeat offenders are handled and how victims can be better protected. As of 2025, the criminal case against Billy Adams remains ongoing. Adams, 25 years old at the time of the incident, was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, one for Alana Sims and another for the unborn child. The legal process has been slow due to the high-profile nature of the case and recent legislative changes in Florida's capital punishment system. Florida passed a new law allowing the death penalty to be imposed with a recommendation of only 8 out of 12 jurors, rather than requiring a unanimous decision. This law has been widely debated and may influence the eventual sentencing if Adams is convicted. Prosecutors have not confirmed whether they will pursue the death penalty, but the possibility remains open due to the severity of the charges. Trial proceedings are in the pre-trial phase, with attorneys filing motions regarding admissible evidence, witness testimony, and the legal implications of Adams' earlier acquittal in a 2020 double homicide. That earlier case, in which Adams was found not guilty just days before Sims' murder, remains a controversial part of the public narrative. At this time, no sentence has been handed down. A trial date has not been officially announced, though court documents show that preparations are underway. The case is being closely monitored by legal experts, advocacy groups, and the public. The timeline of events raises multiple contradictions and concerns. Billy Adams was acquitted in a separate murder case in mid-January 2023. Just 3 days later, he allegedly lured Alana Sims to a remote area under the pretense of celebration, only to shoot her and leave her body next to her parked car. Her son was found alive in the backseat, a detail that shocked investigators and the public alike. Key evidence includes cell phone records linking Adams to the scene, surveillance footage placing Sims at the location, and alleged confessions Adams made to associates, which were later relayed to law enforcement. The car was parked in a residential area, and shell casings were recovered at the scene. Systemic risks are evident. The legal system cleared Adams in a prior double homicide, and he was free to move about without restrictions. The use of firearms, manipulation of trust and personal relationships, and lack of immediate legal intervention all contributed to the fatal outcome. The timeline illustrates how quickly a system failure can result in another loss of life. This case brings forward important questions about justice, accountability, and preventative systems. Alana Sims did not have a criminal record, nor was she involved in risky behavior. She was simply connected to the wrong person at the wrong time. Do you think Billy Adams should have walked free after the first murder case? What changes would you make to protect future victims like Alana Sims? If you found this story as gripping and heartbreaking as we did, don't forget to like this video and share it with others. And if you want to hear more true crime stories that uncover the mysteries behind these tragic events, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest stories, updates, and discussions. Thank you for joining us on this journey to seek justice and explore the truth. Together, we can make a difference. Until next time, stay safe and stay aware.